Good morning and welcome to another edition of Our Town here on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. My name is Darren Swenson. Our Town, as always, brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust. With Memorial Day weekend upon us, we are going to talk about remembrances and those who gave all to help us have the enjoyment we do for the official kickoff of summer coming up this weekend. We'll talk with John Bauercamper later on in the program. John is with the Allamakee County Veterans Museum. That museum had its grand opening about a year ago at this time, and things are going pretty well, and some new displays coming up this weekend, and some opportunities for folks in Allamakee County to learn about their local veterans. We'll talk to John about all things going on at the Allamakee County Veterans Museum. But our first guest this morning is Rob Gross. He is with the Minnesota State Veterans Cemetery in Preston. They have a remembrance coming up this weekend on Sunday. And we'll talk about that as well as all things with the State Veterans Cemetery. Rob kicks off the program right now. You are listening to Our Town, and it's on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. It's Memorial Day weekend, and it's a good time to reflect on things that sometimes we too often take for granted. And joining us from the Minnesota State Veterans Cemetery in Preston is Rob Gross. And Rob, let's step back and look at the big picture here. I think in the hustle and bustle of life, there's a lot of things that we tend to take for granted. How important is it to remember those who gave all for their country on a weekend like this?
Obviously, I think it's one of the more important things that we can do to our service members. One of the more important things we can show to them and their families is taking that moment from the hustle and bustle of life and the barbecues and the river and the camping and all the things that we do to enjoy our Memorial weekends and just take a moment to reflect and say thank you for those that put on the uniform that it allowed us the freedom to enjoy those celebrations and times.
And this weekend, the commemoration at the State Veterans Cemetery will take place on Sunday. Give us the specific details of what will all take place on Sunday.
Absolutely. If Mother Nature cooperates, we'll have a beautiful sunny day out there, eagles flying overhead and birds chirping all around us as we gather together and remember our fallen comrades and our family members no longer with us. So it's a great opportunity to families to come up here. We have music. We'll have a small band that'll be up here to play. We will have a local vocalist that will render a few patriotic songs. We'll have a speaker. Speaker is a member of a local POW riders organization that's a very strong partner with this location. And it's an opportunity for us to really talk about not forgetting those service members until they're all home. And there's still over 80,000 POW members that are unaccounted for and missing in action. So it's an opportunity for us to really focus on a specific group for this event as well. And we'll be having some POW MIA remembrances as well at this location during that event. We'll have flags out and present, a beautiful boulevard of flags up the front hill. If you've never been out to this location, I encourage people to drive up here over Memorial Weekend. If the hair on your neck does not stand up, you may want to call 911 because you may not have a pulse anymore. So,
what time does the program begin on Sunday?
The program begins at 1:30 with music and gathering. It's a time that families can, re-meet. People can get out here, say their little hellos prior to the service. And then our service will actually start at 2 o'clock, runs about 45 minutes. And that service, again, will conclude around 2:45 to 3 o'clock, depending on how long-winded I get or how long-winded the speaker tends to get at that. And then families generally spend some time with their loved ones out at their final resting place. But I think one of the things I really want to encourage is This is open to anyone. This is not just open to those that have family members that have been laid to rest here. We do it on Sunday for that reason, so that families can decide, I can do this and I can do my event in Decorah, or I can be in Cresco for my event. I don't have to pick between, do I do my Memorial Day event Monday at in Austin, Iowa, or do I do it up here? So we do it on Sunday with the hopes that everyone will take that little bit of time away from the Memorial Day sales, and we'll get out and actually spend a little bit of time sitting out here and walking through the sections and reading some of the stones. We've said it before, we have a belief that no veteran ever truly dies as long as they're remembered by a grateful nation. And even though Memorial Day is about remembering those not with us, it's a day of remembrance. It's a day of us honoring those that are not with us and continuing that story. It's a chance for people to sit and say, you maybe didn't know your great grandpa, but here is your great grandpa, and this is what he did. You may have not known that your great grandmother was in World War II, or that your grandmother was a nurse in Vietnam. It really is the perfect opportunity to continue those stories. And again, make sure that we never forget any of those no longer with us.
And how important is it to, especially the younger generation, to hear those stories, to know the fact that many of their loved ones who they may have never met made such great contributions to our country and to others in their service to the country?
I think it's huge. I mean, when you come to it, if we don't pay attention to history, if we don't understand history, we're failed to repeat that history again. So I think understanding some of the sacrifices these young men and women made, looking at them, some of them the same age as my oldest daughter, I think we sometimes have a difficult time, really measuring that or having an understanding of that. And I think we're fortunate that many of us don't have to understand that. So by taking those times and appreciating that history and sharing those stories with our loved ones and their family, again, it allows those stories to carry on, but sometimes it really drives home those freedoms that we enjoy today. The fact that, again, on a Memorial weekend, we can go to a campground and we can have a barbecue. We can go and do some shopping. We can go out there and enjoy those freedoms that unfortunately so many take for granted. It's really an opportunity for us to share the reasons why we have this. A veteran is the reason that we're able to vote. A veteran is a reason that we're able to gather, that we are able to speak freely without fear of repercussions, that you and I are able to talk today without being monitored. So understanding that, I think, is incredibly valuable when it comes to the knowledge of how we have these freedoms and what has been sacrificed for you and I to talk today, and for us to gather an event on Sunday and us to gather an event in the communities on Monday, or, take that time. I don't think we could put a price on it really when it comes down to it.
When keeping in mind the folks that are going to the event on a Sunday, anything they need to keep in mind, and when it comes to maybe bringing lawn chairs or maybe carpooling to the event, any suggestions on that end of things?
Absolutely. We do place some chairs out there. We set up about 300 chairs, but I do encourage people to bring along their camp chairs or their little lawn chairs, whatnot, just to make sure that they do have a seat out there. Carpooling, certainly not required, but encouraged. We only have limited space. As big as our campus is, we still only have limited areas to put vehicles. We do run golf carts around the facility. So if people have to park a little bit of ways, don't fret, just wait there by your vehicle, and one of our nice volunteers will show up at your car side and chaperone you right down to the location where we do the service. And then after the service, we'll return you back to your vehicle. But be prepared for the elements. We never know what Mother Nature is going to send us. So, with myself, I always need to have a little sunscreen up on top there. Water's not a bad idea, just in case it's a little warm out there, to bring along a bottle of water or whatnot. I always tell people an umbrella, you can, but if Mother Nature decides to shed a tear at our memorial event because we're such a moving service, I'm okay getting a little bit wet if that means that's happening. So.
Yeah, I guess one thing I wasn't aware of how relatively new this cemetery is up in Preston. Only it's was dedicated back in 2016. I guess that's something I wasn't aware of. How has the reception been for the veterans in this area, knowing the fact that their loved ones have a place to be laid to rest?
We're very fortunate. The communities in the tri-state area really has taken ownership of this. And I think we have not, we have done our part to ensure that we're never letting them down. Had 3 services yesterday, and in the services, I made the same promise to each family that we've made from the beginning, that we will take care of everyone that is laid to rest here as if they're our own family members. That we will honor and respect them every single day, that the highest standard that we can extend is what we're going for. And if anything is ever not right, they need to reach out to us and let us know. So I think when families see that, I think that has really given them that trust. It's not a mission we take lightly. Their final resting place is a place of dignity, a place that families can gather on birthdays, anniversaries, significant days. And we want to ensure that when families gather, for whatever the reason, that it is that sacred place, that peaceful place, that place of honor, and what we expect to see when we go out to these locations. As far as the community, we are right about 1,100 burials that we have completed since our first burial out here. And obviously we had a little bit of blip there with COVID in the 2 years there, some public services that we weren't able to do. But I think families really have embraced this as a location of trust. The tri-state has again taken this and started using it as we intended, as a final resting place for those that put on the uniform in the tri-state areas and their family members. And it really has become, I would say, a real staple in this part of the country, even to the point of where people across the nation are aware that this location exists now and randomly stop in just to see it. Even groups, bus groups, charter groups, Legions, Lions, Eagles, Elks, Red Hat Society groups, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, you name it, come out here and do tours and gatherings. So to us, that means we're successful. If we're seeing those community groups come out and the families continually putting their trust in us, we're completing our mission, and that's what we need to do.
Anything we're missing? Anything else you want to pass on about this weekend's event or the State Veteran Cemetery in general, Rob?
I just really want to encourage families to, pause on the weekend, whether it be to go out to a community event on Memorial Day, to an event like ours on Sunday, or just to go out and visit a loved one at their final resting place on their own, absent of service, to really just take that moment, to pause and think about the sacrifices those individuals made, and then to enjoy the weekend, to not feel guilty about going out there and doing those things. Because, my grandfather was one that served for 4 years, World War II, and he was one that loved to have his Memorial Day weekend barbecue. That's those freedoms that are put in place because of those sacrifices. So take the moment, pause, silently honor and remember them, and then go out and celebrate the freedoms that we have as a society and as a country because of those people that put on the uniform.
Rob, always a pleasure to talk to you, and always great learning more about the State Veteran Cemetery and those who gave so much. So you and I can have this conversation, and we can have the fun we can have on Memorial Day weekend. thank you for what you do for the veterans and the families, and giving them a place of dignity to be laid to rest. And appreciate the time as always. Enjoy the event coming up this weekend.
Very much appreciated. You take care, Darren.
Rob Gross, he's from the State Veterans Cemetery in Preston. On this Memorial Day weekend, we continue our conversations about those who gave everything to help us have the lives that we have today. And with us right now is John Bauercamper. He is a representative of the Allamakee County Veterans Museum. And John, this museum had its grand opening about a year ago. And how have things been going at the museum? How has the building and the entity itself been received in Allamakee County?
We've been very pleased with support of the community at large and veterans in particular. We've been able to continue with programs once or twice a month since Veterans Day 2021. This weekend, we will be having a special exhibit honoring the 4 Korean War POWs and KIAs from Allamakee County. Their names are Donald Baxter and Roy Vickery, who both died while in enemy POW camps, and John Ryan and Dale Reeder, who were long-term POWs who did survive and return to the community. Will be open Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday this weekend to celebrate Veterans Day and honor our veterans. We'll also be continuing this summer with our programs. Chuck Allen of KNEI has been a great volunteer for us and has continued to interview Allamakee County veterans, and we'll be playing more of those interviews this summer. We have 3 new ones that Chuck has finished, and he's working on several more. Those will be presented at dates to be announced beginning in June. Those include Ron Stagey, Recon Marine from Vietnam, Carl Johnson from Waukon, who's going to talk in a second interview about his time as a tunnel rat, and Dr. Ken Olson from Waukon, who served as a medical officer on a nuclear missile submarine during the Vietnam era.
And when you established the museum, you mentioned the first programming was Veterans Day of 2021, and the grand opening was a year ago at this time. What was the goal of establishing this museum in Allamakee County?
Well, there are many veterans and military museums across the country, and we certainly can't compete with the military service museums and the Smithsonian and that sort of thing. What our goal is to tell a story of our local veterans from Allamakee County, both through their stories, their pictures, and the artifacts that the community has graciously loaned and given to us to use in our museum. So our focus is on the stories of our local veterans.
And how'd you come up with the idea to make this museum such a unique entity? You mentioned there's many military museums, there's many veterans museums throughout the country, but this has that local focus. How'd you come up with such an idea to honor those from this area that served?
I think credit deserves to be given to all of the folks that initiated some years ago the current Veterans Memorial bricks on the courthouse lawn and all of the other monuments to veterans on the courthouse lawn right across the street from us, which makes such a beautiful setting for our museum. The example that they set, not to mention all the work that Maury Gallagher and many other volunteers who did all of the research for those monuments and those bricks, kind of gave us the idea and the incentive. And unfortunately, Maury Gallagher passed away, but his family has given us the benefit and the copies of all of his research that he and all of the others that worked with him did, and that kind of has served as a cornerstone for our beginning point. And almost every uniform that we have on display in the museum, we can tell you who from Allamakee County wore it and what they did. So what we try to do is to kind of continue what was started across the street in the monuments there, and to try and bring to life the stories of all of these folks.
From what I understand, there is a wall of honor in the museum as well. Tell us about that.
Yes, that we consider the most important thing that we have in the museum. There are about 90 photographs on a wall of all of the KIAs and POWs, and we're assembling memory books for each of the individual veterans to go along with them. There are about 20 veterans yet that we still do not have photographs of, but what we've done is we have put in temporary stand-in photo plaques for them with their name, their service branch, and what happened to them, along with a brief picture of the battle they may have participated, the ship they may have served on, or their unit patches that are temporary placeholders for them until we're able to obtain from a family or other source a photograph to add to the other 70 some that we have up there.
What other displays are on display on a regular basis at the museum? You mentioned the special display this weekend honoring the POW MIAs from Allamakee County, but on a regular basis, what other displays does the museum have?
Our displays kind of begin with the Civil War, since Iowa became a state in 1846, and Allamakee really wasn't settled until just in the 1850s. We start with an exhibit of the Civil War, and we have quite a few local items related to a Civil War exhibit. We also have a Spanish-American War exhibit, a World War I exhibit, which includes a mock-up of a trench and trench warfare. We have a World War II exhibit, which includes a special item, a 1943 WLA Harley Davidson motorcycle and rider that has been on loan to us from Craig Timmerman. We have quite a few World War II uniforms, and we can tell you who wore them all and what their relationship to Allamakee County is and what they did. We have a regular Korean War exhibit, plus the special display of the KIAs and POWs for Memorial Day. We have quite a bit about the Vietnam War, thanks to Carl Johnson and his family, who've donated Carl's collection, which includes a Vietnamese Hamlet with a tiger cage and a POW in it, a bunker. We have quite a few uniform displays and try to tell the story of that. We have a special display on women in the military, and our exhibit of post 9/11 conflicts is growing. That's where we need to add more things. And we also, in addition to that, have our program room where we have a large screen TV where we play the interviews and have, whenever possible, the interviewee there to answer questions afterwards. We have quite a library of over 20 interviews so far. And we also have access to quite a few supplemental videos that kind of flesh out the experience and are related to the exhibits we have in the museum. For example, our Harley Davidson exhibit, we have videos of the basic training courses that the motorcycle riders were required to participate in. That kind of explains that. And we have other similar videos that explain most of the rest of the exhibits that we can play. We've also started a library that's open to the public of materials on everything that even includes the children's section.
And when it comes to hours that the museum is open, what is the museum have regular hours or tours available? If the public wants to view what you have on display, how do they do so?
Our summer hours will be on Fridays from noon to 4, and Saturdays from 9 to noon. I may have misspoke. On Fridays, it's 10 to 4, and on Saturdays, it's 9 to noon. We were able to be open more last summer because we had more volunteer help. We could always use more volunteers to expand our hours. But in addition to the hours where we're open every week, we are open for special programs, which were usually held on another day of the week or in the evening. And we are very open to special tours and special visits by groups of any kind. We've had many community groups have meetings or come to the museum for tours. We also do the same for family groups, family reunions, or veterans families that are home or visiting servicemen who are home. So if you contact us, you contact us through Facebook or the internet. We have a presence there. So we are quite flexible and can accommodate most anyone who wants to visit our museum.
And if people have items, artifacts that they want to donate to the museum, or they want to volunteer themselves, would you suggest the same ways of contacting you guys to, if they want to lend a helping hand?
Yes, they can do that. And we also have another museum. We have the Old Courthouse Museum, and we have our Genealogy Research Center, which we're kind of partnering with our Veterans Story, Veterans History projects. And we're in the process of relocating our genealogy research facilities from the basement of the Old Courthouse to the basement of the Veterans Museum. And that can be accessed during regular hours, Wednesday through Saturday this summer. And that's entered through the rear door of the former Vets Club building, and is handicapped accessible, as is the main museum of the Veterans Museum from Allamakee Street. There's also a special event at the Genealogy Center this weekend. The same hours that we're open upstairs, they'll be open on their second annual one-room school reunion project. And you can follow that on Facebook also.
And from what I understand, you got a couple of programming items in the works for the month of June. Is that correct?
Yes, that is. We have Chuck Allen recently completed 3 more interviews with Ron Stege, recon Marine veteran of the Vietnam War, Carl Johnson, a second interview where he talks about his experiences as a tunnel rat, and Dr. Ken Olson of Waukon, who served as a medical officer on a nuclear ballistic missile submarine. And there are several others that are in the works right now. So I expect we'll at least have a half a dozen interviews that we'll be playing this summer, along with some additional programs. We may repeat some of our popular programs again, like our Saturday morning cartoon show of World War II era cartoons and some of the others.
And I should probably ask an obvious question for those unfamiliar with the location of this museum. Where is it located?
105 Allamakee Street, or right across from the Allamakee County Courthouse and all of the monuments on the yard. It formerly was the Vets Building and Vets Club.
Anything we're missing, anything else you want to pass on about the museum or upcoming events or what have you this morning, John?
No, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to explain what the Veterans Museum has to offer the community, and we're ready, willing, and able to accommodate any visitors or be helpful to public in any way if they want to need help in learning more information about their ancestors. There are many people interested in what, say, their Civil War ancestors or their Spanish-American War veteran ancestors might have done, and sometimes those family stories get lost.
All right, John, we appreciate you taking some time. Thank you for your service. Thank you for continuing to tell the story of veterans in Allamakee County on this Memorial Day weekend. History needs to be told, and we got to have people to keep these stories going, and you and all the folks at the Allamakee County Veterans Museum are doing a great job of that, and hopefully that effort continues. John, thank you for the time, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
John Bauercamper from the Allamakee County Veterans Museum. Hey, thank you to our guest on the program this morning, Rob Gross from the Minnesota State Veterans Cemetery in Preston. The ceremony and the remembrance ceremony coming up this weekend on Sunday in the Allamakee County Veterans Museum. And John Bauercamper told us all what's going on with that entity. And we appreciate John, and we appreciate Rob and their efforts to keep the stories of those who gave all so we can have the lives that we do going on a year in and year out basis. We thank those, and I was really probably hit the most by one of Rob's statements during our conversation with him. Rob said, take a few moments to remember those who gave everything to have the lives that we do today, but then go out and enjoy the weekend, because that's how his grandfather would have done it. He really enjoyed his Memorial Day weekend. But let's also remember those who gave us the lives that we do this weekend. And I know it's the official or unofficial start of summer. A lot of things going on this weekend. A lot of fun to be had with friends and family, but also take some time to remember those who gave all so we can have the lives that we do this weekend. We thank Rob and John for joining us on the program this morning. Don't forget, we put these shows on YouTube each and every week. If you're out gallivanting around YouTube, just go to 525 Our Town program. That is a great way to get these program links. Also, you can go to any one of the Facebook sites on LA Communications, 94.9 and 99.1 The River, VIK, KNEI, and Hawk Rock 100.5. We link those at those sites. We realize you can't always be near a radio or streaming device at 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning, but we talk to interesting people. We talked to two interesting people this morning, and we want to bring those conversations on your schedule. It's another way we do our best to serve our communities here at LA Communications. Thanks to our sponsor, Decorah Bank and Trust. A thank you to our guest, and a thank you, most importantly, for tuning in, for logging on, or for watching Our Town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River.